So to share with you some words about today, Fast of Tammuz. We know it's a very powerful day, and it's a big question of how to engage with a fast day. What's the purpose of a fast day? We've already got enough trouble and difficulty not eating, and do we add to that a mix of depression and negativity? Is that the point? So I want to share with you an interpretation from the Aruch L'Ner on the Mishnah that tells us what transpired on the fast day that we are tapping into today. So the Mishnah says, Fast of Tammuz nishtabru aluchos. We see that the first thing that transpired was that the luchos were broken. Uvatal the tamid offering ceased to be brought. The continual offering that transpired every day in the temple ceased to be brought. The Hufka'ir says that the walls of the city were breached. The Saraf Apostomus es a Torah, Apostomus burnt the Torah. Beheimid tzela beheichal, and he placed a tzelem, he placed a idol into the heichal, into the Holy of Holies. So the Aruch L'Ner explains like this. He says that as we are approaching a very powerful time, we understand we're approaching a space of deep connection. We need to consider in our own lives, again, where have our walls broken? And preemptive behavior is extremely important. And to understand that there is a progress, or on the other state, there is a continual destruction, potentially, God forbid, that may transpire. And Aruch L'Ner explains that these 5 things are in fact a list of things transpiring, because in fact, if you look at these things, they're not chronological. Some of these elements that are mentioned in the Mishnah should be mentioned before others. So why in the Mishnah they mentioned in this particular order? So the Aruch L'Ner says the first place in a person's life where they see the beginning of destruction of their inner temple, which is a reference to their connection to Hashem, is Nishtabru Aluchos. Nishtabru Aluchos means that the Luchos are broken. What do the Luchos represent? Represents Torah. And we see that one of the most important steps in a Yid's life, in a Jewish person's life, is the study of Torah. And the first thing that the Yetzer Hara, the first thing that the negative forces of a person's life tries to affect is their studying of Torah. When a person lets go of the studying of Torah on a regular basis, that is referred to as the Shtabru Aluchos. That's the breaking of the Luchos. Ubatal Atamid. Then what happens after that? A person says, you know what? Fine, I won't learn, God forbid, on a regular basis, but at least I'll daven regularly. At least I'll come and I'll daven. I might daven in a minyan, I might not daven in a minyan, but at least I'll daven. The next thing that goes when a person doesn't learn on a continual basis Torah is batal tamid. The tamid, the continual offerings, every day that they bring in tefillah, they start to miss out on Ma'ariv, they start to miss out this in a minyan, they start to engage in all different elements that question their continual process of davening. Once those 2 things go, then it's all downhill from here. I mean, we're already downhill, but it's really going downhill. He says, suddenly the walls are penetrated. What does it mean that the walls are penetrated? The barriers that a person has to the world outside, which means all of the negative experiences that a person has, potentially through their desire, through their experience of expansivity, of pleasure, whatever those elements of this world are that a person needs to put barriers up for, what they see, what they eat, what they listen to, what they look at, etc., etc. All of these elements are referred to as walls. And if a person doesn't have solid walls that prevent negative forces to come into their lives, then that's going to eventually penetrate into their temple. So the third state, after a person stops learning Torah on a regular basis and davening on a regular basis in a minyan, what transpires is that their walls are broken. They start to be subject and open to all of the folly and the frivolity and all of the negativity of this world. Then, God forbid, once they've allowed those forces to penetrate, then we see the Saraf Apostomus es a Torah. They start to develop a hatred for Torah, God forbid. They start to want to burn the Torah. They feel like, what is this? It's just a burden, it's just a negative thing. I much prefer to engage with other ideologies. Why do I need this Torah? They develop, God forbid, a hatred to the extent that they want to burn the Torah. And then they place, God forbid, a tselem in the heichal. They replace what their heichal is meant to hold, which is a space for Hashem and the oneness of God. They replace that with a tselem. They try and find other ideologies. They try and find other things that come into the holies of their selves, and that is what is the interpretation of the Aruch LaNer. So now, in this day is a very powerful time to really hone into figuring out where these 5 things can be upped in terms of our approach to life. Especially, we see these 5 elements of, number 1, how can we strengthen our study of Torah? Number 2, how can we strengthen our tefillah, especially in a minyan? Number 3, how can we place up healthy boundaries to those things that are problematic in our lives? Number 4, how are we able to create a sense of love for one another and a space of love for the Torah? And finally, how can we understand that the only element that we are here for is essentially our dveikus, our oneness to Hashem, and that's what our purpose is in life. So please God, should be a time of Yeshua, time of bracha, and please God, only good things for all of Am Yisrael.